Now, whenever Sony has talked about the Xperia 1 Mark II, they've talked about professional photographers and the Pro app, and I absolutely love the Pro app. But what I want to do here is look at it this way. What if you're not a professional photographer? And what if you're not interested in becoming a professional photographer? What if you just love Sony's way of doing things? The 4K display, the 21:9 aspect ratio, the fact that it's so light and so pure Android. I mean, it's such a great phone if you take the cameras out of the equation. My question here is, can you live with this device if you're just going to use it in auto mode? Like, is it actually good enough? So to find out, we've put it up against the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and my good friend from the UK, who I miss enormously, Rory Reid, has taken some fantastic pictures of Teslas, an old rusty bicycle, and himself, and we're going to compare the two and see, is the Sony good enough? We'll give you our thoughts and feedback as we go through this video from the studio, and at the end we'll give you our summary. One thing I will say though is the results might surprise you. They definitely surprised me. So let's kick things off here with the first picture, and this is a theme that you're going to see throughout. The Sony, with the color science here, it's more true to life. There's a bit more saturation in the iPhone image. However, if you want to see some good dynamic range, if you zoom into the shadows here on the iPhone image, it does handle that rather better. Overall though, this is exactly what you're going to see with the other images too. The Sony, very true to life. So now on to picture 2 with this beautiful tree bark. What we're seeing here is the iPhone looks a little bit unnatural again compared with the Sony. The Sony has more natural looking bokeh effect as well there. Less dynamic range though again on the Sony, and it is missing some of the colors from the sunset in the background. It also looks like there's a little bit of detail missing here from the trees and the branches on the Sony. Overall it looks slightly more washed out, I think it's fair to say, with the Sony here. It certainly looks less dramatic than the iPhone image, but again, true to life. That's what we're talking about here with the Sony. Picture number 3 here, and the first thing you'll notice is that the sky's a little bit washed out here on the Sony. The foliage looks less dense, there's lower dynamic range in general here, and it seems to be struggling a little bit between the lighter leaves and the sky. Having said that, the tree bark looks beautifully natural, and incidentally these notes are Rory's notes, Bob's notes. Bob's a professional photographer here with me now, and mine as well. So these are our general thoughts, but as ever I really want to know what you think as well. Okay, so here the first thing to say is this was a really difficult image to capture because of the fog, although both phones have done really well here. You'll see in the iPhone image more saturation in the sky with those colors there, higher dynamic range generally is with the iPhone, but specifically if you look at the tree line here just above the fog, there is more detail in the iPhone image. So in this shot here with Rory's bicycle, you can see that it's a low light shot. As the light was fading here, the iPhone actually compensates for that by brightening the image overall. On the Sony there's more contrast, although you'll notice it's a bit more washed out there on the Sony in the top right of the picture. Actually, when I first saw these two images, I thought they were the other way around. I thought the one on the left was the Sony and the one on the right was the iPhone. Do you see what I mean? I'd love to know what you think about that, because actually I was very surprised by these results. Okay, so here we're not too keen on the bokeh in the image here on the iPhone, although the iPhone image does pop more, the colors are more vivid. Again, the Sony's more natural. So here the iPhone captures a wider image, and the iPhone's telephoto seems to get you closer into the subject here. Overall, the iPhone is a brighter image as well, of course. So here the iPhone has better separation, we feel, between the foreground and the background. The bokeh does look a little bit artificial in places, but overall it's a more luxurious, probably a more convincing looking picture actually. What do you think about that? So the big difference here between these two is the aggressive bokeh effect here on the iPhone image. For us, it's just a bit too much. I mean, the detail is impressive here on the tree bark, but overall I prefer the natural look on the Xperia image. So here the first thing we notice, of course, is that the Xperia image is brighter. Over on the iPhone image there's much more information in the sky. So on the iPhone image here there's more sharpening overall. Sony has chosen not to go that route. If you want to add more sharpening you can, but again it's a more natural look, unsurprisingly. So the main thing I think to mention here is that both of these manufacturers have a totally different approach when it comes to colour science. As we've said before, the Sony's all about giving you the most faithful to reality pictures, whereas the iPhone tends to look a little bit more dramatic perhaps than is real. So here with the Tesla logos on the bonnet, or what is that in American English? That's hood, isn't it? Yeah, here. The iPhone is sharper, there's more detail. Now as to whether or not that's a good thing, I know if it's actually looking better as a result, well I'll leave that up to you, but yeah. Now I am going to say this is a win here for the iPhone because, I mean, if you look at the sky on the Sony, you can see it's more washed out. I mean, the image is overexposed. There's less detail on the branches when you compare it with the iPhone here. Yeah, I actually really like the look of the colours here on the iPhone image. This is a draw. I hate ever, just saying things are equal or a draw. I always like to try and make a decision, but this time around, I mean, look, they're slightly different approaches perhaps overall, but very, very similar image for both of these phones here, and I think, I mean, they both look great, these pictures. So this is another one of here where I thought that the iPhone image was the Xperia 1 Mark II image, but they were the wrong way round. And I was surprised by that. If you just focus in here on the steering wheel, that rather beautiful Tesla logo, I think you'll agree, or you may well agree, that the Xperia 1 Mark II really nails it here. This is a nice shot. Now when it comes to the selfie cameras here, we have a clear winner, don't we? And it is not the Sony. Sony has not brought their A game to the selfie camera at all. There's no depth of field. I mean, it's a wider lens as well, of course, but there just isn't a convincing selfie here, whereas there is on the iPhone. The other strong message we're getting here is, what is Rory wearing? I mean, like, what is he wearing? What is Rory wearing? So here we are then, the final shot, and it's in low light. Now all phones struggle with low light to varying degrees, of course. I think here the iPhone has done a better job in general. It's managed to get more light and more detail into the shot, and it just looks more convincing to me. Right, so that's the final one. Now let's go back onto the roof and wrap this one up. So is Sony's auto mode here on the Xperia 1 Mark II good enough? Well, I feel it is. It's actually better than I realised. I adore Pro Mode and I encourage anyone who buys this phone to really get into Pro Mode and enjoy it, but Auto Mode is good enough. The selfie camera we've established, I mean, once and for all, it's just not good enough. I mean, it will get you through, I suppose, but it's just a shame that couldn't have at least been better. And it does need to be better in the 1 Mark III, which hopefully will be unveiled early next year. So, Auto Mode is good enough. Does it compete with the iPhone 12 Pro Max? Well, I think if you turn up the sharpness by sort of 10% in post on the Xperia 1 Mark II images, and then add a bit more saturation, you can create an iPhone-looking image, that style. But Sony's chosen not to do that because Sony, with their color science and their general approach, they want to give us the most natural looking pictures possible. And apart from areas where there's extreme low light, bright conditions as well, apart from those extreme sort of conditions, the Sony handles everything very well indeed. And in fact, there were a few images I mentioned that I thought the images were the wrong way round, it hadn't been labeled properly. So, I mean, it is closer than I realized. But now look, Sony loves to tell us that this is a professional photographer's ideal phone, and I think that's true. But what I will also say is that if you're not a professional and you haven't spent the money yet on one of Sony's amazing mirrorless cameras, but you're thinking of doing that, getting a proper camera, this is a wonderful phone to own because you can have a chance to understand how to dial in the perfect shot, and you can enjoy that enormously in pro mode. So auto mode is good enough, pro mode is exceptional, and the front-facing camera is rubbish. I think that's the summary. Thank you so much for watching. It's been real, and I'll never say that again. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.